From the Banner offices along the Inner Harbor, it is the Banner Baseball Show. Paul Mancano and John Meoli here on a Tuesday in January, 3 weeks away from the start of spring training. And boy, do we have a show for you today. We have the Orioles skipper, Craig Albernaz, joining us here on the Banner Baseball Show.
Albie.
John, are you going to be calling him Albie this year? I know it's a hotly debated topic amongst the Orioles beat.
I just probably won't address him by name. Maybe I'll be like, hey,
sir.
Maybe instead of somebody mentioned this to me one time that everyone would start their question like to Brandon Hyde, be like Brandon, or like Brandon, or and maybe I'll just go like, so maybe that's how I'll interject myself and like, so
start with, well, actually,
here's the thing. I don't know what's right or wrong. I just know that I don't want to make a decision on. I want to do what the group does. I don't want to be
a follower.
I don't want to be deciding whether we call Craig Albernaz Albie or Craig. And I think that'll be something that just happens organically. I hope.
Yeah,
I hope.
We'll see. On this interview, though, I'm going to call him Craig just for now, just because I don't want to make a call one way or the other. But we're going to ask him a lot of questions about how he plans to run spring training, how he plans to deal with a lot of the guys on this roster that were underperforming last year, what he thinks of some of the recent moves in the Orioles offseason, what he's looking forward to in Birdland Caravan, so much more. Pete Alonso, we have yet to get his thoughts on that. So much more yet to be discussed with Craig. And this comes at a good time, John, because, the Orioles haven't done a whole lot since our last episode. I don't think they've really... Jorge Mateo signed with the Atlanta Braves.
I saw that's
the biggest news in Birdland.
I saw the tribute content and I thought there was some kind of glitch because he's been a free agent for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I thought something, I didn't know what happened. Well, I just didn't know what happened. And I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. Talk about good to have stuff in the can. Thank goodness this interview was scheduled for this week when there was nothing to talk about. Imagine trying to hit your social quotas. Great, Jorge Mateo signed with the Braves. Let's pump out some stuff. Let's get some engagement.
Let's squeeze 40 minutes out of that.
Yeah.
No, good for Jorge. If April Jorge Mateo can show up in Atlanta for the entire season, then they'll be in good shape. But we'll see. Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers, just to remind everybody that, life is pointless and nothing matters because the Dodgers exist. But other than that, Birdland Caravan is coming up this weekend. We'll get a chance to talk to a lot of the players for the first time in a while. That's exciting, and see them interact with a lot of fans. But other than that, we are just waiting for the dust to settle on the offseason. We're waiting for a couple big dominoes to fall in free agency. Framber Valdez has yet to sign somewhere. Cody Bellinger has yet to sign somewhere. So we're waiting for those dominoes to fall, and then we're waiting to see if this Orioles roster is going to look any different by the time they report to Sarasota when pitchers report in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And I think when you say dust, you mean snow, right?
Snow, yes.
The snow to settle.
Because we are getting a foot of snow in Baltimore.
Gosh, I believe weather forecasts, and I also feel like the farther out they happen, the less likely they are to. But my daughter's school is closed for this entire week, which makes it a statistical guarantee that it will also be closed next week for weather purposes. So
2 weeks in a row would be brutal.
It would be an impact on my life, but it would be a joy to spend all this time with her. I would watch so much Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
Wow. And you didn't say that with through gritted teeth at all.
Gosh, that's not my favorite show. Give me K-pop Demon Hunters all day.
Wow. I still have yet to watch that. All right. Let's get to our interview with Craig Albernaz. And now we're joined on the Banner Baseball Show by new Orioles manager Craig Albernaz. Craig, thanks so much for hopping on the Banner Baseball Show. I feel like we've had this in the works for a while, and it's great to finally have you on.
Yeah, boys. No, thanks for having me on. Just excited about just getting this season going. It's been a long winter, so let's get down to Sarasota and get out of the snow for me.
Yeah, what's the biggest thing? How different is it being somebody who's on a coaching staff and preparing for a season versus somebody is it 3 times more work, 10 times more work? How different has this offseason been for you than last one, say?
Man, that's a really good question. For me, it's been my experience in Cleveland of the 2 years was extremely, extremely informative, especially doing a job like this. Vody and and Cleveland's front office allowed me to be a part and have a pretty big say in a lot of stuff, being spring training. And so you kind of get the, that experience of all the moving pieces, making sure every department is heard on the schedule, making sure that the players have what they need, the coaches have what they need. So that experience helped a lot. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's always the small things that add up, because like those small things can't be overlooked. And next thing you know, those small things turn into big things. So we just want to make sure that we're on top of everything, because at the end of the day, like you guys heard me say this before, it's about the boys, it's about the players. We want to make sure that on the coaching staff, we're buttoned up and our schedule is dialed so the players can just show up and just play baseball.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a rallying cry for a lot of Baltimore fans.
It's
the t-shirts
every time I say it, it just keeps on. I can't get around it.
It has a life of its own already.
No one's going to tell you to stop.
So before we even get to spring training, you do have Birdland Caravan coming up this weekend. All these events in and around Baltimore. Get to interact with all the fans. You have the volunteer event on Friday. You have the Guinness Brewery event on Friday as well. The rally at Westfield Montgomery Mall on Saturday. Duck pin bowling as well on Saturday. Have you ever been duck pin bowling?
I have not been duck pin bowling, so it'll be fun. It's going to be exciting. But
yeah, how excited are you for this weekend?
It's to me, it's awesome. I think it's a shame, and I get it that some teams have moved away from either like a fan fest or like a caravan type deal. But especially getting towards spring training, I love it. I think it energizes the coaching staff, the players, and also I think obviously the city and the fan base. So being able to get to go out there, just see the fans, meet them, sharing their excitement about the upcoming season, because we're just as excited. And then also for me, it allows me to meet the players in person. A bunch of guys are being there, which is awesome. I think the amount of players that we have coming out from this that are taking time out of their off season to fly into Baltimore to see the fans and do their thing, I think it speaks volumes just for the players itself and the organization. So yeah, this is a lot of excitement going into this. So, and also I love that I got put into the Guinness Brewery. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm a Guinness fan, so it just worked out.
That's always one of the best events. If you get any players or managers pouring beers, I think that fans get to appreciate that.
Yeah, you pour one for a fan, you pour one for yourself. It's a 1-for-1 ratio.
All right, so I'm definitely going to go and see how that goes.
Split the G with Craig Albernaz.
No, this is a packed schedule. Do you have anything planned of like, hey, get everybody in a room, like let's all hang out and like meet each other and get a little? Is there any time for that?
No, I wish there was. There's no time for that. I mean, a bunch of our PR and our rest of the front office does a great job of scheduling everything. So everything's on a tight timeline where we got guys flying in and out because they have to get back to their off season because it's right in the middle of their the end of their ramp up.
Yeah,
right. Ready. So I wish there was more time, but during these events, there's always time to chop it up with the boys and get to know them and kind of see where their head's at, and also have some fun and talk a little crap.
Yeah, ride the bus with them. Good times. Now, you also have this event Thursday night with Pete Alonso at the Center Theater, already sold out. Obviously, a very unique experience to get to sit up there and talk to the team's big ticket free agent. At the press conference where we got to meet Pete for the first time, Scott Boras, his agent, said something that has resonated with me since he said it, basically, that they felt something special happening during the meeting, and Scott Boras credited you for that. What can you share about what your perspective on that, and what you thought was happening in that meeting that might have swayed Pete in the way that it did?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest with you. But to me, I've said this, a bunch, and especially at like my introductory press conference, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to rely on the players' feedback. I'm going to rely on the people around me, and that's what we're talking through. It was a great back and forth with Pete, and I, it's always tough. I've been on a bunch of these kind of like free agent calls, obviously not with just this organization, but the previous organizations I was in Cleveland and San Francisco. And it's tough for the players sometimes because they're not used to having questions prepared and ready to ask the tough questions to organizations because they're interviewing them as well. But Pete, right out of the chute, he was asking really great questions the whole time. So it was a great back and forth baseball conversation. And I think that's what I'm feeling. That's what they gravitated to, was just the openness and honesty that I had, but also not knowing, that I don't have all the answers. And it's going to be a partnership with our coaching staff, our front office, and also more importantly, the players. And that's something that really resonated. And like I said, it was a great back and forth. And I'm glad that big fella is on our side.
Yeah. What can somebody who has 264 career home runs, who is in the prime of his career, do for your lineup? And what can he do for your clubhouse as a leader?
Yeah, to me, that's the biggest needle mover, is what he's going to do in the clubhouse. And I credit Mike in the front office. Like, they're not trying to win the offseason with the most acquisitions and free agent signs and say, look what we did. Like, they are legitimately like trying to give us the best chance to win a World Series and compete in this tough division. And then also, this league, playing 162 games is tough, but bringing in someone like Pete with his pedigree, battle tested, proven, you look at his career, stemming all the way back from Florida, the dude has performed, but he's also had to prove a lot of people wrong. And, the way he goes about his business, his prep work, and also how he tries to, it's not about him. He's not out there just trying to get his numbers. He's legitimately wants to make everyone around him better and ultimately try to win. And that's something that really resonated with me. And it's already resonating with the players who we already have. So that's going to be a big asset. And obviously you add impact like that in the lineup. You plug him into any team, any lineup, he's going to be very impactful. So like I said, we're lucky to have him, that big fella on our side, but yeah, just more importantly, I'm excited about the person we brought in.
Yeah, it's one of those things, coming home from winter meetings, and basically been a month plus since that signing happened. And I feel like everybody I've talked to about the Orioles has talked about Pete Alonso. It's one of those things that no one can look at that and not take notice. And I think that's a really unique aspect to that signing that I'm sure is you're in experiencing the same thing. People are probably pretty happy for you that you have Pete Alonso in your lineup now. I wanted to ask, in doing, reading up on you and your background over the last couple of months, I keep diving into that Giants staff that you were a part of, that kind of gave you your major league start. And we hear a lot about the Cleveland years, but it seems like that was a pretty unique experience over in San Francisco as well, with a lot of young coaches trying a lot of different things. You've obviously brought Donnie Ecker and Dustin Lind over here. What was it about that experience in San Francisco that stuck out to you, that helped form the coach you are, and that made you want to kind of get as much of the band back together as possible?
Yeah. Cap did an outstanding job. Gabe Kapler, the manager, when he got the job in the offseason of 19, like, he had a vision, and it's now kind of the norm of, quote unquote, like, bringing in player development coaches at the big league level to help develop players at the big league level, which just sounds so simple to say, but that really spearheaded everything. And like you say, you look at the collection of coaches that he put together. We reflect on it all the time. I was with Kai Carrera in Cleveland. Kai Carrera was a bench coach there. Now he's a bench coach and with the Mets. And obviously we have Donnie and Dustin. You have Andrew Bailey with the Red Sox. JP Martinez is now with the Braves. Ethan Katz is with Houston. Like, the list goes on. Justin Veeley's in Texas. I know I'm missing people, but we have like Antoine Richardson. It's just so cool. And sorry, I can't forget this. Alyssa Nacken, she was on staff there. She's a stud. She's the assistant farm director of Cleveland now. Like there were so many just great coaches and great people there. And for me, it wasn't about getting the band back together. It was more of, the people you work with, how great and elite they are. And they go to other spots and they have success. And the biggest thing for me is, like, obviously we all kept in touch, but it like, obviously you dig in a little bit, but when you bring him in to be on possibly your staff, and you have our, myself and the rest of the front office doing the interview process, they're vetting them, and that's something that that was awesome that our front office had such a loud voice with the people that we brought in, because we all wanted the whole organization to vet these candidates. And, they were, so excited to bring in all these coaches. And, with Donnie and Dustin, I think it gets lost where it's like we were just quote unquote trying a lot of stuff in San Francisco, but everything was calculated. Everything was planned and prepared for the players. And that's something that I gravitate to it from a coaching staff perspective when we build out our staff. And you look at the rest of our staff, like they're all cut from the same mold, with, Brady North, the assistant hitting coach, keeping Buck and having him coach third, bringing in Jason Bourgeois, bringing in a veteran like Miguel Cairo to coach the infielders, and you have the established pitching group that we have. You couple that, it's been really exciting time for me just to work with these guys and have all these conversations.
Yeah. Is there anything about, like you said, it seems kind of obvious that you're still developing at the big league level, but what does that look like in practice? I know there's probably a million things for every player that they could be working on, but how is that communicated to the player specifically, that, hey, we're still getting better here. You are here, but just because you've arrived doesn't mean you stay where you are.
Yeah. All the players at the big leagues, in my experience, like, they all want to get better, right? But it just looks different for everyone. You don't play 10 years in the league without getting better and making adjustments. Like, there's no level above this. Guys don't get called up from the big league. Some guys should, but so you have to make adjustments to stay. And that's the biggest thing. And so it's all about finding whatever that is for the player, whatever that carrot is, whatever that motivation is, and you have to double down on it. And like you said, like, it looks different for everyone. Someone it's more of a bigger, holistic player plan, type deal, or it's more just a quick conversation and they take it, digest it, and then make the adjustment. But when it comes to development, the biggest thing is the player. Like, you have to partner with the player. The player has the loudest voice in their own development. So it's up to us as coaches and also the front office to kind of find a way to get in and what resonates and what makes it digestible for the player to go out there and execute it and ultimately perform at the highest level.
Yeah. And in terms of your role in this and the coaching staff's role in this, Cleveland last year had the second most pinch hit at bats, I should say, of any team in the league with 138 the year before. When you are managing a game, how much of your decisions are guided by splits and platoons? And when you are making those decisions, what are kind of the driving forces behind those in-game decisions?
Yeah, great question. It looks different for everyone. I think you just don't go and look up the platoon numbers and just organically on a whim make the move, right? I think there's so many factors that come into making a decision, right? It's the state of the game, the leverage, up or down. If we make the move, are we hurting our defense late in the game? Or is there a better matchup if we survive this non-optimal matchup, but later in the game, we're going to be in a better spot if we hold. Like, there's so many conversations and nuance that go into this. Where's the hitter at mentally? Where is he at with his swing? The guy on the bench, and I think that's the biggest thing that gets lost is when you make a pinch hit, or you're doing the platoon, righty lefty with the starter. It's all about the player that's playing, and it's about what he can do in setting himself up for success. And that's all we're trying to do. And nothing is going to be on a whim. Like, you have to be prepared, and the more importantly, you have to be in constant communications with the players. And when you make a move, you have to explain the why. And that's something that, the Voti did extremely well in Cleveland is we always explain the move, if it good, bad, or indifferent, but you had to explain it to the player. And then ultimately you want to make sure that whatever player is coming into that game and that pinch hit, that they're prepared, so you try to forecast it before the game and then during the game, an inning or 2 innings in advance, so they can get prepared and go out there and compete.
Yeah, Paul and I have been talking about this a lot as we've been talking about the offseason roster construction. You have a unique group in place right now with 2 catchers who you want to have in the lineup every day. That opens up the possibility of a third catcher on the bench. You hear there's a handful of right-handed sluggers in the first base mix now, headlined by Pete. There are obviously opportunities to have impact bats on the bench, and there's also the flip side where there needs to be positional cover, at key positions. Do you have a preference personally of I would like a bench full of players who I can swing a game with in the 6th, 7th inning, or I would like a bench full of players who can cover us defensively and do a lot of things and maybe wouldn't have the offensive upside of somebody who is more of a pinch hit profile?
Both. Right.
Cool.
Like both. Yeah. Like I think it all comes into play. Right. And I think that's what makes Mike in the front office, in the acquisition group so elite is like, they're already thinking about it. They're already thinking about, what our roster is going to shape and look like. And for me, like, yes, like I like to like jot down and, play GM and do the lineup and stuff. But, at the end of the day, you don't know who these players are yet until you get the spring training. And, they're making adjustments right now in the offseason, working hard. And, you want to see what those adjustments are like before you even try to like pen in a roster or what it looks like. But for me, it's a blend of everything. Like you want to have a diverse bench to cover whatever warts that the starting lineup has, if they have any. But in this game, it's with the back end of bullpens and how they're constructed. Like they're like every team has a force to come in. And so ideally you want to win the game early. Like you want to try to beat the starter, which is crazy to say because pitching's so tough. But, ideally you want to have, I'm being selfish here. You want to have all your bases covered.
Yeah, no, I believe that. And you mentioned getting to know these guys. You haven't even gotten spring training. You haven't seen people do much in person. You're still getting in the process of getting to know guys. I know that's been a big part of your off season so far. And I wanted to do a thought exercise where we did that. So are you interested in a hypothetical right now? This is a little crazy. Some of it's more crazy than others. We'll start with the craziest part first.
Let's see where this goes.
All right. So imagine that I'm like a young and talented person who everyone thinks is really good at their job. All right. You might have to take a huge leap on that, but just imagine that for 1 second. All right. Okay. And then this is a little less far-fetched, but didn't feel like I had the best year last year. And now you are getting to know me in hopes of helping me get back to what I am as a performer, as a producer, as a person. What are some of the things that you want to know about me before you start making decisions about what's the best plan for me? What's the best path forward? Because that's a big part of your job is helping some players who probably don't feel great about how the last year of their careers went and to let them know that that's not who they are. That's just who they were last year. And this is going to be different going forward.
Yeah. The biggest thing is, this is not a crazy hypothetical, by the way. So,
thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot crazy that I have been a part of that's a hypothetical. So,
just the young part. It's just the young part that was crazy to me.
But for me, you want to know the history of the person, right? So you want to know their upbringing, where they come from, how high school was, college, whatever they went to, wife, girlfriend, off season, like. All that matters. All that context and color matters because, how you do one thing is usually how you go about everything else. And also you want to know, if there's any scars from, earlier in their baseball upbringing. And once you kind of vet that, and then you just want to know from the players' words in their mouth of, what could you have done better? Where did it go wrong? Where did it spiral? But then also more importantly, when you're really great and feeling great, like what does that feel like? What does that look like? What's your mental state? What does your work look like? And then for me, it's how can we coach you? What's the best way to coach you? Like when you had your best coaches that you've had, what did they do well? What are some of the worst coaches you had, like your worst experience? What did they do wrong? And I think for me, like, players are going to tell you exactly how they want to be coached, right? And a lot of the times it's right, it's spot on, but also there are some jaded views, and and that's very easy to sniff out. So when you have those conversations, it's all about asking the right questions. And then once the player says those words, it's up to us as a coaching staff to use those words and not hold the player accountable. But to me, those are the guardrails for for that player and their development. And so now we have that basis and that framework to kind of layer on whatever development needs they need, information, conversations, all that stuff comes into play.
Yeah. So to take that a step further, you have these conversations with me. I'm sure, let's say that there's also another manager or coach who's in the mix. Like, how are you guys sharing this information? Is there like a repository of all the, interview contents that you guys are sharing with each other so that you're all on the same page? Are you guys having meetings saying, hey, I spoke to person X this week and he told me this, and let's make sure we remember that he wants things this way? Like, how are those things being communicated as you guys are kind of building those guardrails?
Yeah, all the above. And I think you're just taking out, when you have those conversations with the players, you're taking out like the main bullet points that it's going to allow the other coaches to do their job more efficiently. It's not oversharing what the players shared to you, right? You're just giving the rest of the group, the quick hitters of how the coach this player or just like things that stood out for the conversation. And so a lot of the times it's, I'll call, or, we'll all call each other directly, to let us know how the conversation went. There is some messaging going back and forth of like, we're talking about players. It's like, hey, reminder, he was saying this, when he was feeling great, these are the drills that he wants to do. And, where he's right, and feeling at his optimal performance level. So all these things come into play. So it's conversations, it's messaging, but like more importantly, like this is something that, Cleveland does extremely well, is like they take the rep with the conversation. And I think that's something that always gets overlooked in this game is like, we want to be prepared. And that's not just with whatever visuals or numbers or drills, but it's also with the conversation, right? Sometimes that 2 to 5 minute conversation, that's the only time you have with that player to land the messaging and whatever you want to work. So it's doing the prep work of 2 hours behind the scenes of talking to people that know that player well. So you're weaponized to have that conversation so that player can hear what you're saying and then take it and run with it.
Yeah, and a lot of that baseline is going to be built during spring training. And Greg, a month ago when we saw you at winter meetings, I asked you what kind of spring training you wanted to run, and you didn't want to give away any secrets. We're now 3 weeks away from spring training. Have you changed your mind? Do you want to give us any insight into how your first spring training will go?
Regular spring training, we'll throw the balls out there, guys. We'll hit some fungos and take some BP. Pitchers will throw some live BPs and pens, and and then we'll play some games. I think there's no secret to spring training. Like, I think the biggest thing with our coaching staff is, what my message to everyone is whatever drills we do, whatever fundamentals that we're going to do, we're not just doing them to do them, right? We have to, when we go out and do our work, it has to be purposeful work. We don't want to waste the player's time. We're not just arbitrary, just doing drills just because we're out in the field. Like, everything we do has to be, a value to it. And also a reason why we're doing this. And, so for us, it's, everything we do is going to be backed by, either numbers or either situations that have come up in the previous years or situations that we want to be prepared for, heading into the season. So that's kind of where our spring training is heading, is, making sure that our guys are prepared and also we're not wasting their time. I think that's the players feel that, like, they want to get their work in. They want to make sure that their time is valued, but also they want to make sure that time is accounted for. So that's something that we're very mindful of.
Will Tupac be playing on the speakers? Because when the Orioles announced that they were giving out bobbleheads for Tupac on May 8th in a game against the Athletics, you tweeted out a Tupac lyric. Mm-hmm. Are you a Tupac guy, and will he be bumping on the speakers?
I'm an old school hip hop guy. So like I grew up in, the Biggie Tupac, era. And to me, that was, it was, in my opinion, the best music era. Tupac, Biggie, Wu-Tang, like, and, obviously it morphed into like, Lil Wayne, so, but now it's like seeing the Tupac thing. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like it was one of those things where I didn't expect it. And I was like, man, I like Tupac is such a dynamic dude, like what he's done. So, yeah, I'm a Tupac fan, and yeah, there'll be Tupac bumping in spring training along with a variety of artists.
I think we're going to have to secure you one of those bobbleheads, because I think they added like 5,000 more giveaways because of the demand for those things.
Yeah. Are you, I know you've been doing a lot of commuting and train rides and stuff. Are you a music person on the train? Are you a podcast person? Like, what are you listening to these days?
Podcast. Yes. Not any particular podcast, like whatever gets sent to me, like, hey, you should listen to this. So I'll listen to it. I do listen to music. It depends. Usually I listen to music kind of on the way back home, kind of like winding down, and also read a book. Like I'm a sneaky, I do like to read. So right now I got to give a shout out to Daniel Coyle. He's the one that wrote the Culture Code and Talent Code. He actually sent me like 20 copies of his new book that's coming out, Flourish. It's coming out next month. So I'm reading that right now. So yeah, the train rides have been great. Read books, podcasts, and also, look at our players and do some work on the train.
Albie's book club. We got the first entry into it. We'll all read Flourish, and we'll see how we'll get together and down Sarasota and talk about it. And we'll definitely make sure to send you our podcast as well. And when we have a really good one, we'll make sure that you listen to us. I'm sure
only the good ones, guys. Only the good ones.
1 out of 4, probably.
Yeah. In terms of settling yourself in Baltimore, obviously you have a ways to go before the season starts, before you can really settle yourself in the city. Have you found good restaurants? I know you're a donut guy. Have you found any good donut shops in the city?
Not yet. Well, yes, I have. I just don't know the names of them yet.
Okay.
We brought all of our coaches in the week before Christmas, for a week, and we kind of all got together and hung out, talk players, talk ball. But there was donuts there, so it was they were really good donuts. So I do have to find out what place that was. We did. My wife and I, Genevieve, when we came down for the Alonso press conference. We got there a little early, so we snuck in some later brunch. We went to Spoons. That place is really phenomenal.
Good place in Foothill.
Oh, there's cinnamon roll, pancakes, whatever it was. It was so good. I do have to go to Miss Shirley's. Everyone's been on my case about going to Miss Shirley's. I got to go there.
Yeah,
but locations. I haven't really dived into the restaurant scene yet, but I can't wait to do.
Yeah. Now, I was figuring that you probably had something like that with the staff. I remember reading about the Giants when I believe Alyssa, like you mentioned, cleaned you guys out at poker or something at the Giants.
She came to the table. She crushed us. It was unbelievable. She was riding the heater. It was awesome.
I love that. Anything? What was it like getting this group together? You interview these people. You know some of them you're getting to know, and I'm sure there was a moment where you sat back and kind of took in stock of what this group looked like and what it was going to be. What was that like for you?
No, it was awesome. It really was. It was so exciting because you don't know, how everyone is going to get in the same room and talk. And, if people are going to be, a little apprehensive to speak, it's, you just don't know. And it was so cool to see that everyone interact. Just not like in the group setting. Yes. But even like in like the smaller group settings where you have, our analysts, talking with our coaches and, different departments talking to each other, like problem solving, throwing ideas out there. To me, that was the coolest part. It's just like the idea sharing, no one in that room has anything figured out. And they all have the growth mindset that we want and need, because, it's something I learned and it was told at a young age where in this game, if you have it figured out, you don't. And that's something where our coaching staff is the same way. Like they're always looking to get better. They're always looking to ways to get players better. So it was so cool just to have everyone in that room. And, we had a special guest for a little bit. Cal Ripken popped in, And that was awesome. A great baseball conversation. So it's just so cool to have everyone in there. And that's what really gets the juices flowing about heading into spring training.
Yeah. One more baseball question for you. We haven't had a chance to talk to you since your team acquired Shane Baz in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. What can he do for your rotation? And how do you feel like this group, especially the starting guys in the rotation, are coming along? Do you feel like you have room for anybody else in that group?
Honestly, guys, like when I took this job, I thought the team was awesome already. Like that's one of the reasons why I gravitated here without even making the moves with the players we had. And I really believe that. I really believe that with the guys we had, we could win and compete. And then obviously you start adding these pieces to the team, and yeah, it gets you really excited. And add someone like a Shane Baz with his upside, his pedigree. You know, he has all the potential in the world to be an ace and to go out there and be in the conversation for a Cy Young. I'm not saying this year, but I'm saying down the road, you know, with the stuff he has and the mentality he has, you know, he's a true competitor with elite stuff. You know, and that's something that I keep on giving, and rightfully so, a lot of credit to Mike and the front office group and acquisitions. Like they're diverse in their thinking. They're not just trying to go out there and, you know, and acquire free agents. You know, they're being diverse in, you know, how they want to put together this team. And so it's always tough to deal away, you know, prospect capital, but, you know, to get a return like Shane and make the impact with us starting rotation, it's awesome. But, you know, with the guys we have, like I've been saying this all along, like I think we're in a great spot, you know, and if we add, I trust Mike and I trust our front office to do what they see fit to make our team better.
And did you have any experience with Shane when you were with the Rays? I know different roles, but
yeah, he was his first full season with us was in 2019, and that was when I was the minor league field coordinator, and you know he was in low A, so it was brief conversations with him, not really like too much in-depth conversations with him. Also, that was, I don't know if you guys like that job, being a minor league field coordinator is a daunting care of a job. Yeah. So like my first year was, well, like the only year I did it was a lot. So it was, you know, drinking out of a fire hose. But what I remember for Shane was just even at a young age, just the ability to go out there and compete and his maturity. And that's something that has really stood out even as a major league player.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, not the easiest geographic locations either with the Rays organization going around from affiliate to affiliate.
It was all over the place. It was
Bowling
crazy.
Green, Durham, Montgomery, gosh, Hudson Valley at the time.
Yeah, Bowling Green. Where we were in Port Charlotte. Then you add in the short season in Princeton, West Virginia. You know, Hudson Valley, New York, and then, man, I feel like I was in Dominican Republic twice a month too. Yeah,
you know,
so
I can't say I have any experience with Princeton, West Virginia.
Yeah, but I didn't know there was a Princeton, West Virginia.
I'll put it on the list.
Oh, you guys should go. It's a great place. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, I'll hit you up after this for some recommendations.
Yeah, I got you. I got you for sure. The Applebee's is great.
Well, if you need any donut recommendations, let me know. There are a couple good places. I mean, there's Shipley Donuts, which is outside the city, which is a chain, but that's in Glen Burnie. Yep. Dettle's Donuts, which I believe has a stand at Lexington Market. That's good. So we'll get some recommendations flowing back and forth. Craig,
please. I'm not. I told everyone in the organization, I'm not a high maintenance guy. But I'm telling you right now, if it's a day game, there has to be donuts there. It's the show. Like, there's got to be donuts in the clubhouse for a day game.
Yeah.
That's how we do podcasts here.
I'd actually learned before Jordan Westberg came up that he was like a maniacal routine guy in Norfolk. All the guys would try to like emulate what he did in the cage because it was the same thing every day. I'm sure you've known this, but there was one Thursday day game where he just showed up and ate 2 donuts and hit a couple homers. So he too is on the I need some donuts on a day game train. Now, that was a couple years ago. It might have changed, but I have a feeling that the change comes slowly for Jordan Westberg. So he might be on the same boat for you.
Done. I'll throw 2 donuts on this chair before every game if that's the case. I'll take 2 donuts every game. I like those.
That would be an output to remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Craig Albernaz joining us here on the Banner Baseball Show. Craig, thanks so much. We'll see you this weekend at Birdland Caravan.
All right, boys. Thank you. Thanks